Go back to the comments. So it says we're live. Do we have confirmation of this? Oops. I'm going to say we're live. I don't know. I don't have my YouTube page up. So
yeah, I'm waiting for it to pop on.
So
I'm live. I don't know.
We're live.
Here it is.
There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Evening. Another episode of Three Guys Chat. You'll notice tonight we have an imposter with us. This is not Chaos Gun Guy. This is actually Tactical Considerations. If you have not checked out his channel, do so. His channel has exploded with popularity. It's probably because he's just jacked and, big meathead. I mean, let's be honest. And that's what people want. They want meatheads. So,
yeah.
But he's got a good channel. He does a lot of different stuff, obviously. A lot of Glock stuff, a lot of interesting things, like pretty guns, that's cool. But so welcome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, pretty guns. Listen, so why don't we do a roll call for everybody who's here, and then we're going to talk about everything that we're drinking tonight, because it's a little bit of a mishmash of things. But so we'll do a quick hello to everybody. So we got Cody Fowler, Ranger 10mm, Kathleen Music Lover. Let's see who else. We got Drucifer. I was about to call him Deuce. Whoops. We've got Guy Comet. We've got Aaron Newmeyer, Roman 623, Pistol Pete, Ranger 10mm. Hello, sir. Daniel O'Neill, Jack's House 28, Johnny Danger, IBG. Holy cow, this is moving fast. Range Randy, Young Guns 1735, W, God's Wrath, Door Kicker. A nice name. And if I didn't, I also forgot Lorenz, who's out in Switzerland. Hello, sir. And Anthony Lamastro. And I think I got everybody. If I did not, welcome. As you guys know, this is our weekly chat. So we got some interesting things, but again, let's talk about something really quick. What are we all drinking tonight? I'm drinking water.
Go ahead, Tactical.
Oh, I've got water in my little Vader cup, but I've also got a Malbec. For those of you that don't know wine, I have a Malbec here. My Scotch is gone. And my Jameson, because I was on a live chat with Fit and Fire and I drank like that much left out of one of the major handles, and then I haven't bought any more. So
I've got Texas Rock. It's a new vodka. Here it's actually made in Texas, and it's actually better than Tito's, and I love Tito's. A little smoother, and having a little vodka and diet or Sprite Zero with a lime.
Very good. Okay,
Ooh, so got a little lime garnish on there, huh?
Refreshing, yeah.
Very refreshing.
And the big round, what is it? The big round ice ball thing?
Big round ice ball? I don't know. Yeah. What do you call it?
I guess it's just a big round ice ball.
Big round ice ball.
Yeah,
all right, there you go.
Not the big block, but it's the big ice ball.
All right. So a lot of people have some different stuff. Orange Crush, somebody's drinking. Kathleen's drinking Kool-Aid and apparently Liberal Tears. Real men drink wine from a mason jar, by the way. Somebody is saying, Menele is saying that. Whatever. Anyway,
like the John Wayne thing where you tip it over and you.
Yeah, you like.
There you go.
Yeah. So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, if you're not aware, Tactical Considerations is a current law enforcement officer with an expertise in. You tell. Why don't you tell him? Don't let me tell him. You tell him.
Well, use of force instructor, DT instructor, hand-to-hand instructor. I'm actually a federal certified firearms instructor, a couple different things. So ex-military, overall knuckle dragging meat eater kind of guy.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's America. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So no veggie burgers for us. But one of the things that I found interesting is when you were telling us a little bit about this at the beginning before we went live. Obviously we wanted to bring up the situation that has occurred out in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And if you guys are living under a rock, obviously a gentleman, I'll use the term loosely because I don't know him, but a gentleman was in police custody. If you haven't seen the video, it's about an 8 or 9 minute video where you have one of those police officers who's basically driving his knee into the man's side of his neck around the carotid artery area. And obviously the man has died. So obviously we want to bring that up. We'd like to hear from an expert in the actual chat tonight in regards to what his thoughts were on that. And obviously we'll look at some of the statements made by the group that's watching. But look, what are your thoughts on that situation that occurred?
Well, I'm so glad to be called an expert.
You are an expert, sir.
Yeah, so there's There's a couple different things going on there. I mean, one, that if you guys that video it's tough to watch. You know, normally I like to see a lot of facts and a lot of things come out. That's pretty long, and it's a pretty definitive video. I hate to say guilty until proven innocent, but it's pretty gnarly. So there's a couple things going on there in the neck specifically. If you don't know the kind of the physiology of the neck, you got your jugular, you have your carotid, but you also have something there called the vagus nerve. Okay, so that the vagal nerve path there, it actually correlates and ties into the stimulation of the heart. So the more pressure and the more taps to it, and the more, you know, carotid restraint, which is actually, people say, oh, the carotid is dangerous. It's actually not. It's a very, very good tool if you properly applied. But the overstimulation of that vagal nerve can cause heart arrhythmia. It can cause a couple different things. And that's one of the main things. If you like, I'm a carotid restraint instructor, so that's one of the things you have to be careful of. You have to pay attention to, and that's like if you ever use that on somebody. I mean, we go to like extra lengths. We write like C on their forehead, C1, C2, because if you can only apply it so many times within a time frame. And that's just for a medical safety thing, because I mean, like if you ever trained MMA or anything, you're getting put out like every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff going on there, and there's a lot of things in there, and it's ugly. I mean, that's got all the signs of, and especially since the department fired him immediately and the other officers, and it's just, my thing on that case is like, you know, you have active chaotic scenarios where you have to use force, and force is ugly. And it's like one of those old Pelian principles. You only use the minimal amount of force necessary to gain whatever you need to do. I mean, there was a crime occurring. You gain reasonable and necessary force, right? It has to be the average person has to be like, okay, that doesn't shock the conscious. That person did this, appropriate force, we're good. So that may have been the case initially, but the application and the prolonged application of something like that, that's like day one academy stuff. You don't do what was done like that. I mean, initially in a struggle, you may have weird placements of your body parts on another person when you're rolling around or doing whatever, but you have to gain composure. And that prolonged fact, and in fact, the other officers were on scene that didn't kind of step in and say, hey, it's time to start rolling dude to his side. We talked about that recovery position on the left side of the body because it's the way the organs sit and the all that stuff. It's ugly, man. It's ugly, and I don't think it's going to work out well for anybody on that scene. It's just not. And then the fact you've got Minneapolis is burning. There was like a shooting at a rally. There was all kinds of stuff. And I honestly, it's you know, as a law enforcement officer, it's one of those times where I can look at that and say, yeah, that's people are going to be really, really, really mad about this.
Yeah. You know, and just looking at some of the side chat, a lot of people were saying, well, what law did he break? You know, what would have caused the cops to do that? That type of idea set. And, you know, we were kind of discussing a little bit in the beginning, and it goes back to the idea of, you know, everything's fluid in those types of situations. And you're right. You use the type of force necessary to gain control. But then you get to the point where you've gained control. That means you need to adjust to that situation as well.
Yes.
And that would be like any other profession. It's not just law enforcement. It wasn't just the fire service. It's not just sales or education or being a doctor. Every situation presents a different response to it. And
Correct.
So if he resisted, which maybe he did, again, the video is showing this and that, and we don't really have all the facts yet. But even if he resisted, they used the force necessary to gain control, which was evident because he was cuffed. They got him cuffed. They were moving him, and instead of putting him into that car, they put him on the floor, and that's what you begin to see. And, you know, right or wrong, I think at some point, the guy who's standing on his neck, and then even the guys who are next to him, should have used better judgment at that point, especially when you have citizens there telling them, dude, you're killing this guy. Get off his neck.
Yeah, and the you can see the one lady actually identifies herself as a nurse. So you have, it's like you said, it's a progression. It's an evolution of force, because force goes up, force goes down, the fight's on, the fight's off, and you're constantly reacting to those things. And Supreme Court case law is very specific when it comes to use of force. The Tennessee versus Garner cases, all these things that are out there, you know, the 3-pronged test of the severity of the crime, were they attempting to flee, or are they an immediate danger to the public, you know, and this is like to give you like both ends of the spectrum. A shoplifter that's totally compliant.
Right.
You know, are you going to armbar them and, you know, pile drive them into the ground? No, right? You're just going to put them in handcuffs because they're compliant, right?
Right.
Active school shooter. You're going to shoot him in the back.
Right.
active shooter, right? They're killing
Right.
kids. It's
Right.
so those are your differences in progression, right? And it can go from one end of that spectrum to the other. So once you gain that compliance, your use of force has to come way back down. But that doesn't mean that handcuffed people can't hurt you or kill you.
Sure,
It's
right.
happened before.
Right.
There's cases out there. There's video out there of that. But you are reacting to force, and you are reacting to gained compliance, whether it's forced compliance or whether it is permissive compliance. Because there are people that will straight up want to fight you, and then when they know it's over, they're like, "Okay, I give up," and you put them in handcuffs. That happens every day.
Right.
But you have to bring it back down. You've got to de-escalate at some point.
So
and I say de-escalation is not a tactic. Okay, that's an outcome. Whatever tactic you use to de-escalate it, that's a lot of people kind of get that wrong. But you have to use whatever specific tactic that's appropriate, legal, moral, ethical within policy to bring that situation back down here and ultimately gain de-escalation.
Great point.
I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was going to tell you. Go ahead. Tell us what your thoughts are.
I think once they, got him down, put him in handcuffs. I mean, they could have set him up. They could have put him in the car. They could have done all kinds of things. To sit there on his neck is crazy. I mean, it's like, when I used to do steer wrestling, when you get a calf down, you wrap them, you're done. You don't stand on their neck or jump on their head and do all kinds of crazy shit. They're done. They're finished. So that's when, like you said, all that should have been brought down and everybody chills out, and then they go around and make sure everybody's okay. That kind of stuff.
And there was plenty of time, because and here's the other thing too, is once you use force, you own that person.
Yeah.
That's like you see shootings and then immediately people move in and start applying tourniquets and providing medical aid. Now in the state of Arizona, there's no duty to provide aid, but you effectively, when you're using force and taking someone into custody, you own that person. You've got to get fire there. You've got to get them medically cleared.
Right.
You got to get them checked out, because now that person is not only maybe a suspect, but they're also a patient.
Right.
You have to treat them as such once you've gained that compliance.
When you're sitting on his neck and you're looking down at him with your hands in your pocket and you're just going about your business, and the guy's saying he can't breathe, and you see him doing all this stuff. I mean, he could have easily lifted his knee. There's so many things he could have done, but just to sit there and just, put that jaw on him, that the video shows it, like you said, and that's just, man, that's some bad stuff right there.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing about that video, and then we'll get into some of the questions that are being asked on the side there, but one of the things that I also thought was disturbing that not a lot of people are really focusing in on was also when EMS arrived. They did not look like fire. They looked like just EMS, so probably a bunch of stretcher jockeys. But at the same time, when we ran calls with law enforcement, fire, EMS, we arrive on scene, we're going to tend the patient. We're going to make sure the scene's clear, obviously, by you guys. And then, they're going to stand by while we're tending to the patient. But even the way they just kind of just dragged him on, and he was limp. The guy was limp. That
was the weirdest thing I have seen. And I hate so much like second guessing people and judging things in hindsight. But there's so much time in this. There's so much time. And that all of that time was wasted.
You wonder if the medics, when they arrived, knew there was no pulse, and instead of doing, working a scene right there, get them in the ambulance and get them off scene so that you can work them on the way to the hospital. A lot of times you do that because you have a crowd around you. Shit's going to get a little bit stirred up. But I didn't, there's a certain professionalism that even if you're in the fire EMS side, there's a difference between you and us. We know that. And there had to have been some professionalism. Somebody should have come on scene and said, you know what, get off his fucking neck. There's no reason to be doing that. You're killing this guy. And I think what makes it even worse is the fact that you had the average Joe and Jane on the sidelines who were making more sense than the trained professionals who were on scene. And I think that's what bothers me the most about this whole thing.
It's funny when officers get in trouble and stuff, the first question usually is, where was their supervisor? Like, how long was this going on? Like, were they radioing that there was a use of force? Because if there's use of force, you've got people coming. I mean, generally, you've got guys running code, you've got supervisors, you've got notifications going out because those scenarios go bad. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things. But I
can't imagine, all the other people, or the other officers just walking by and looking this knee in the head and not looking at this guy's eyes. I mean, not saying get off him, man, he's not breathing, or
and it's interesting you said that too, because again, I don't think it's any secret that there is a very strong bond in the law enforcement community, as there was in the fire community. But I can tell you times where we were doing something and we had maybe a rookie with us or somebody who didn't know his ass from his elbow, and you grab him. You say, what are you doing? You push them aside, and then you tell them afterwards, this is what the problem is, and then somebody who's more competent takes over. But you didn't even see that in this situation.
And there's specific Supreme Court rulings that saying that specifically address officers on scene outnumbering. At what point do you de-escalate? Are other officers on scene failing to take action now responsible? There are Supreme Court case rulings in that, and you're going to find out what those medics knew, because I promise you those guys are going to end up testifying, because this is, let's just face it, this dude's going to get charged.
Yeah.
I would be 100% shocked.
I'm shocked they haven't been already. If that was me or Big Johnson, we'd be in jail. We would be in jail. And that's another thing that I think is going to be questionable at this point too. Although I would say the mayor of Minnesota or Minneapolis, he looks like that idiot from Canada. I just want to say that right now.
Trudeau.
Yeah, he looks like Trudeau, man, and he needs.
Yeah. So as far as the charging goes, though, they're going to do, and I guarantee what they're waiting for, because it's going to be really political. This thing is going to get so political so fast, like you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
Because a lot of other scenarios that have been on video and looked really ugly. The whole. A couple of the different shootings that have taken place that turned out to be justified or whatever, but initially it looked really bad. But because there's other angles of camera, or something turns out to be not true, or this one just, like I said, there's so much up front right there in that initial video for so long that it's really, really almost impossible to explain. I can't think of an explanation, but they're going to wait for probably the preliminary autopsy to see what was on board, what was going on.
Sure.
Was it, some kind of excited delirium? Was it narcotics related, whatever? But, that's the only,
when all that stuff's going down, the officer's having an adrenaline dump, the suspect's having an adrenaline dump, everybody's just freaking out. And it's almost like he just rested, like to get or come down off his euphoria, the officer with his knee on the guy's neck, and it's like, no, rest it there, you're in the wrong place, brother, step off that guy. But it's gonna be nasty, and all this rioting and stuff, man. Ooh.
So let's I'm gonna we'll start with this question here. This I thought was, obviously this is going to be a very pronounced question, especially with the individual that was killed. In your opinions, do you think it was racially motivated, or unfortunate coincidence that this man was a black man who was basically murdered? I mean, let's be honest. What are your thoughts about that? If it's racially motivated, or if it's just a circumstantial thing?
Go ahead, TC.
That's a hard question to answer, because you can't peer into somebody's soul. It looks ugly just by mere pigmentation. But for me, I don't care who the person is on the ground. It's the same either way. And then I guess that's just me. I grew up, when I was very young, I grew up in an almost exclusive minority neighborhood when I was really young, and I was probably one of like 3 white families in the area. So I don't look at things through that view. I can see, just based on historical reference and stuff, how people do. But to find out if it was that, only the person that did it can answer it. I just think it's like outright stupidity. That's like literally just outright stupidity, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And then my opinion would be, I don't know what happened before all of this. I don't know if it just happened to be, whether he was yellow, white, green, blue, whatever. We don't know what happened first. We don't know this officer's background. I know that they've already brought politics into it. I don't know if you've seen the picture of him. The guy had a Donald Trump hat, Make America Great. Now they're saying he's a racist. We don't know that part of it. That I think that's where we need to wait for those facts and let them do their investigation on that. But I don't know, man. I hate that anybody would look at an individual like that, period, with those kind of eyes, because, man, we all bleed red, period. I don't care what color you are. So
That's like the whole thing. I always laugh when I see the question like an application or something. What's your race? It's like, I don't know, human. Like I'm not an alien. There's only one race. We may have some different skin tone,
so
but we're all human.
So talking about it from a brown guy's perspective, I would agree that it is very difficult to say if this is racism because you don't know what's in this cop's heart, mind, soul, whatever you want to call it. But I think what it boils down to is classic desensitization. I think when you are working a certain profession and you're dealing with a certain clientele all the time, you get desensitized to that clientele. And I think, unfortunately, if we look at statistics, and if anybody wants to argue with me, they can, but you're going to find that in high crime areas, there are usually large minority populations. That's a fact. That's not me just talking out of my butt.
That's the socioeconomics of law enforcement. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you deal with that constantly, and there's a level of desensitization. I don't want to hear this guy complaining about this. That's all these people we deal with say the same shit, and we're done with it. And I think at that point, it then becomes, in my opinion, a departmental issue. The department needs to be able to weed those types of officers out, maybe get them some therapy or counseling, whatever it might be, to kind of bring them back to earth. Again, not making excuses. We all agree this guy did the wrong thing. But, at that state of mind where you're stomping on a guy's neck and not even thinking about that, not even saying to yourself, man, this I should just get off this dude's neck. Something happened where this guy's brain didn't click the way it should for most people. And I just think he became desensitized and didn't give a shit anymore. And it's a shame. So is it racism? No, I don't think it is. I think there are people who want to make it automatically that, but unfortunately,
gets the clicks, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have a victim who is a minority and who was killed by a white officer. And that's bad. It's bad because of all the dynamics involved.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah.
So we do want to say Honest Outlaw. If you guys did not know, his channel is back. So that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. That was rough, man. That dude got screwed.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Richard Oliver is saying, just out of curiosity, what was meant by saying looking at it from a brown man's perspective? I think it's fairly, well, maybe you don't know, but I am a Hispanic male, so I am considered a minority. And so as a result, people would suspect that all minorities share the same viewpoints on use of force and all this other stuff. And that is not the case. So that's why that was said. So if that offended you.
Pictures of my family from literally I think it was like the 1880s. There's actually like black people in my family. Like most people don't know that or anything. So it's like,
yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. So, it's a lot of times they people want to say, well, if you're a white guy, you have no opinion in this, and unfortunately we all have an opinion on this because it doesn't matter if you're white, black, brown, pink, purple, polka dot. The entire portion of what we saw on video was just wrong. It's just wrong. So
1,000 better ways to handle that whole situation.
And then,
for the next year, all of law enforcement is going to be dealing with that, which is, unfortunately, it's one of those things where, there's something like a couple million law enforcement contacts a year, and a minuscule percentage of them end up in a use of force or something like that.
Right.
And out of the ones that do, it's like the 99th percentile of them are what you would expect. But then you've got that like 1%, maybe a little more than 1% or whatever, that are so catastrophically bad,
right,
that it really just wrecks the view of law enforcement, and it takes years to recover from that.
Exactly.
Just years and years, because one good thing doesn't make the news. Hundreds and hundreds of good things, and it just takes one bad decision to wreck that relationship with the community.
Yep. And it's only like they troll for it. They just want to be able to see that. But kind of catapulting from that, Parts by Teddy is saying it's not racially motivated, it's police brutality. They're turning into be a tyrannical government bullies, not respect the people's life. I think that's a very broad brush. I would not consider every law enforcement officer to be a tyrannical person who wants to abuse you. But it does kind of bring up an interesting point. If you look at the most recent headlines, you know, you're having these no-knock warrants being put out there, people getting shot in bed. You know, it does begin to generate questions, questionable behaviors and actions of police around the country. You know, and at what point does the boys in blue and the ladies in blue kind of take control of this situation and start to, you know, really change what needs to be changed? I just don't know. You know, again, maybe you have some insight on that, but
yeah, you know, there's hundreds of warrants probably served a day, and you hear about the bad ones because when they go, let's just face it, I mean, when stuff in law enforcement goes bad and ends up on the news, it's usually catastrophically bad.
Right. And
it's just a stain that you can't walk away from, and you're going to have to carry with you. You know, the no-knock warrant things, those are pretty gnarly scenarios. A lot of times those are usually salvaged for like the really violent type stuff, you know, that you're usually trying to do something like that on. And there's a lot of times that you'll try to do something other than something like that. You try to catch people out on the street or walking or doing something to kind of, you know, mitigate that risk. You know, serving a warrant is all about mitigating risk, time, date, location. For God's sakes, get the location right. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, generally warrants have to be so specific: the color of the house, the color of the door, how many plots it is up the side of the road, what color the roof is, how many cars are parked. It's usually very, very specific. And departments vary. And that's the one thing is like, you've got just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agencies all over, some of which are anything from 6 men to 30,000 like NYPD. And they all operate under a different set of rules because they all operate under different federal courts, right? We're under the 9th Circuit where I am, which is a circus. It's a joke. They're the most overturned court, and they're the only district court, I think, that's actually been excoriated by the Supreme Court directly, to show you what kind of a disaster they are. But you're right. You know, sometimes that common sense factor has really got to come into play. Generally, it's good to have that and usually employ it daily.
Yep, sure is. All right, so we have spent 27 minutes talking about this subject, so I'm going to do a quick turnaround. Let's start talking about, I think, what we all love very much so, and that would be firearms.
No step.
So, yeah. So, you know, obviously Big Johnson just released a video on a ginormous hand cannon, whatever the hell that thing was, shooting fireballs out of it. You know, every time I see videos like that, I get pissed because I know I can never own one of those here. I'm like, God damn it, that looks so much fun, but nope, can't do it. You know, what are you guys looking at now? I mean, is there anything that you just kind of caught your fancy, so to speak, where you just can't break away from it, firearm wise? Is there anything right now that you are just absolutely head over heels for in love with?
Go ahead, TC.
You know, it's weird because I had a bunch of stuff coming, and then the whole thing happened, and like a lot of that stuff got delayed. So I just got a call from a guy last night that was at the A3 Stryborg he's got, and the Bren 2 is coming in. Nice. So I'm really, really, really excited to get a hold of those two. I've got the M17 coming in, and I'm really interested to play around with that because a lot of people that I kind of trust their word on just say that thing is just dead nuts accurate and is just really, you know, a good shooter out there on the range. So, you know, that's it. I mean, there's a lot of other little things coming, but as far as like, you know, big new crazy things, there just hasn't been. There's not like that massive innovation in the market right now. Like last SHOT Show, it was kind of like SHOT Show 2019, or was that SHOT Show 2020?
Right. That's a good
Except
point.
for STI, they're blowing up like crazy.
Yeah,
so I've got some of those coming in too. So
well, it's not STI anymore. It's Staccato now. They changed their name.
Oh well, wow. Yeah, whatever.
I know.
Yeah,
but I was like,
tomato.
Don't change your name. I don't like that.
We are now
because
Staccato.
Remember, some of those early STIs, they were problem children.
I know.
I mean, I've seen rusted STIs coming out of a factory box, rusted as shit.
I know, but they're, you know, that's just kind of their, you know, that's been their namesake. You know, you can always make better stuff, but just to up and completely change your name, and I probably just want to reface it, I understand, but it's different. But yeah, I mean, I got the POF, the Rogue, and you know, if you know, on the chats and stuff, I've said forever I wanted, you know, a short barrel 308 pistol, and you I was going to build one or do all this. And, I saw the POF Rogue, or saw of it at SHOT Show, when all this stuff was coming out. And I was like, man, that might be the answer, because this is, I've got a 308, Lancer, big boy. And, but this one's different. It's actually built on an AR-15 type frame. So it's got a minimized carrier, and then it's got the 308 30 caliber bolt head. So you're using an AR-15 charging handle, you're using an AR-15 drop-in trigger, a lot of that. And the weight, this thing weighs 5.7 ounces.
What's the barrel length?
What?
What's the barrel length?
12 and a half.
Okay. I've got an 11 and a half inch FAL.
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
Yeah. And this thing is like, I just can't believe how flat it shoots. I mean, it's loud as hell, but I knew it was going to be a flamethrower, and I knew it was going to be loud, but it is flat fun. So I've already taken the muzzle device off of it, put the cherry bomb on it. So tomorrow I was going to go shoot it with the suppressor on it, see what it does, the Trash Panda. And, but it's a lot of fun, and this is what I was wanting, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So
cool. Yeah. I'd like to say I got something big on the way, but I don't. I mean, like you said, things have been, so slow. Even our courts aren't open right now. They're reopening tomorrow, which is actually pretty nice. So maybe in the next, 50 to 180 days, I'll receive that. God, I can't remember what the hell is the MR920 from Shadow Systems. So, I did buy it, and I'm looking forward to it because I like my Glocks. I have no problem with Glocks, but I'm so tired of them sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I was able to kind of, like caress it and touch it and play with it a little bit in the gun shop. And it seems like it's going to be a very good replacement gun for Glocks. Even though obviously it has the, Gen 3's internals, and it just seems like the ergonomics are just exactly what Glock should be doing. And I think that's, for me, been the biggest problem with Glock. Yes, they're reliable, and yes, they have world-renowned success in militaries, law enforcement, everything else. But Jesus, please stop being so stubborn and make a more ergonomic lower on that handgun, because you're going to attract more people. Just do something. And even though they don't need to, and I know everybody's going to say, but Glock sells the most. You're right, but maybe it is time to evolve a little bit, because
tell that to Colt. They once sold the most.
Yeah. And the 920, man, is just, it's everything you'd want right out of the box. Yes, inherently it's more expensive, but you're getting night sights. You're getting, a nice, what appears to be like a custom slide, a good fluted barrel, nice trigger, everything that you want. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost you less to buy that than to upgrade your Glock to the way you want. So
it's optic. It's a better optic.
Yeah, it's a complete. You don't need any plates. It's basically a patented product, I guess you could say. They're going through the patent process, so it looks like it's going to be, in my opinion, very quickly on my radar for favorite handgun. But again, time will tell when I get it. And I've been toying with this idea, and I don't know. I'd like to know what you guys think, and don't laugh at me when I say this, please. But I've been looking at those the Fight Light Lower. Because obviously in New York, you can't really have a real AR. You're not allowed to, because they're scary. They scare people, especially children. So you got to do what you have to do. So I've been looking at the SCR lowers. They've updated them a little bit, so all this stuff comes with it now. I'm just not sure if that's the route I want to go, but I do want to get something that is very relatable to an AR. Now, some would say, well, what about the Mini 14? It's not the same. It's not the same thing. But I like the fact that you get the lower, you can build whatever upper you want. And there you go. So, what are your guys' thoughts on something like that?
Flightlight makes great products. I mean, their stuff looks really awesome. So I would say, do it if that's what you want to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're kind of stuck, man.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it may be a compromise as compared to having 34 ARs like I do.
Yeah,
but
nice. Rub it in, jerk.
If it's what you can get it, man. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's either that or I got to keep buying. I got to keep buying lever actions if I don't. And I mean, I've had enough.
And those are cool too, though.
They are really cool. They're super cool. But 6 rounds, not so cool. All right, let's be honest.
No, but it's just, man, it still just kills me every time I hear somebody from the East Coast or California, one of those places, and I'm just like, God, man, what the?
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, it sucks, man. And if one more person tells me, "Oh, just move," well, if it was only that easy, guys, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not.
Yeah. And Kathleen has brought this up a couple of times, but what's our opinion on Timberwolf frames? You know, for the Glocks, where it kind of changes the angle and does some different.
4 letters, UGLY, man. Things just not my cup of tea. It's just ugly as sin.
As far as the grip and the angle, I do like it better. And I've shot one. It wasn't mine, but it was a buddy's, and it shot great. It didn't shoot, it shot good, and I actually preferred that angle. But I don't have like long-term durability testing or anything like that under my belt personally. But
well, I've got the Nomad, and then the GS9. That frame is coming out. I got one of those coming to me. There's a lot of options for Glock integrated stuff out there now besides the Polymer 80, even if you get the serialized version, because there is the serialized version out there. Plus, there is a way to serialize your Polymer 80. It's just a quick ATF thing. But there's a lot of options out there because the Glock platform is it's probably here to stay for a very long time, and I think they've got to do something in the next probably 10 to 15 years, and the market's just going to pass them by. Right. There's only so long you can have that edge, like Beretta. They were all in law enforcement for how long? Smith and Wesson, revolvers, so long in law enforcement. Yeah. It seems to be that if you can just wedge into the military law enforcement, everything kind of goes from there. Well, Glock lost the modular handgun thing to SIG, and even though I'm not necessarily the hugest fan of SIG, I can see why, just because the modularity of that handgun is unseen than anything Glock can answer to at this point. But they're gonna have to do something because other manufacturers are continuing to innovate and do different things. And Glock isn't really doing that. I mean, they gave us some good stuff with the Gen 5. They did a few things that I was real happy with. But if they just did the simplest things of removing that hump at the bottom and giving a flatter angle and redefining the trigger guard, those 3 things would solidify them for much, much longer than what they're doing right now. Just in my opinion, because you can only stay on top for so long, right?
They've already done it. It's called the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but but since 17 has the gun, and a lot of people don't know this, but with the Shadow systems, now they only make it a 19 size, so it's no good for me. But the back straps, one of the back straps changes it to a 1911 angle. One is kind of a CZ angle, and then one is a Glock angle. So it changes your point of aim just by sticking a back strap on it. So that is really cool innovation to me. Now, is it going to be the right, width and all that stuff for me?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I've only tried the one that it comes with. But, that forward thinking.
I will definitely tell you that whatever comes out of the box is probably already geared to the Glock person. As soon as you put it in your hand, you're going to immediately recognize it as a Glock. It doesn't feel that dissimilar to it. It feels a little bit more rounded as opposed to blocky, but much more comfortable. It's got the undercut. It's got a little bit of a much nicer beaver tail that you don't have to put a stupid backstrap on. So it's very Glock-like, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be interesting to see how that grip angle changes and the feel of the gun overall. But I think most people, as soon as they touch it, think like, holy shit, it feels like a Glock. Well, it is like a Glock, but better.
And I keep wondering, like, if because remember, Nomad was the first one that came out with those Gen 4 compatible lowers. And every time I look at the POF frame, the Shadow Systems frame, and there's one other company, I looked at it and I'm all, hey, as that shot show, I was like, hey, who's making your frames for you?
Yeah.
Oh, those are ours. I'm all, okay, who's making your frames for you?
Yeah. Where's the production at? But
because that's the same slide-in back strap, the same. And I was looking at this because Nomad's coming out with their full size pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on that. And then I was looking at all the other ones. I was like, this looks like even the polymer in there, it looks really close.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a shocker. I mean, if you think about all the guns that manufacture similar things, Beretta sold their shit to Stoeger. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that's being made and machined by the same things from other companies.
Yeah.
Now, there was a point that you said, and I can't remember what the hell it was now. I was sitting on and saying, oh, that's a great point. And now, of course, I can't remember. Go figure. And if it comes to me, I'll let you know, but I can't remember what it was. But it had something to do with Oh, actually, you kept mentioning SIG, and SIG is an interesting gun for me because I've owned a lot of SIGs and I've sold a lot of SIGs. So right now I have two, and I really like them. I mean, obviously the X-Carry and the X-Compact, fantastic guns. They really did a nice job redesigning the lowers on there. And the modularity, obviously, to me, is what makes SIG a very, very mean competitor on the market. Just the availability to change things, sizes, this, that, and everything has really kind of changed SIG's game a little bit. But interestingly enough, obviously, I'd be, stupid not to mention this. You got to remember the people who really invented that whole process was Steyr. But the problem is they don't market shit. They don't market anything. And they still, in my opinion, make a very excellent handgun. Now, if I can only find one of their M's when they come out, that would be great because I do not want the full size. But, I think SIG really got the market right now. There's a lot of hype on them. I think there's more interest being generated by them just because of the simple modularity of their guns.
Well, and their military contracts, the machine gun contracts, the pistol contracts. The SIG is doing some very cool things. But I always say this, and it makes people laugh. I'm all, you're talking about SIG because I've owned SIGs too, like the 220s and stuff like that, and it was good. But the same kind of thing as you, I got rid of it. And I always tell people, SIG makes a great $500 gun for $800.
Yep. But you know who does too? H&K. I hate to say it, but not my favorite.
No, dude, the comment section is going to explode now. You cannot talk bad about H&K.
Yeah. I'm one of the poor's guys, but that's not true. I think I've owned like 17 VP9s. So
Yeah. And as far as SIG, I've owned many in the past, and I have one currently now, but they're definitely not my favorite guns. The Legion's nice, but it's 226 kind of stuff. 229. I mean, and of course some of their really nice German, stainless steel firearms and stuff are super nice. But SIG, for me, nah. I mean, I understand they have the Legion and they have all this other stuff, but with the bore axis and all the other stuff in bore axis, I can shoot any gun. It doesn't matter. But it just doesn't, like when I hold one, it just feels top heavy.
It's a top-heavy gun, man. It's got a boob job. It's top-heavy.
Yeah. And like I've said many times on the X5, now I don't have the Legion version, but on my X5, when I shoot it, because it's so top heavy and long, it has that bucking sensation. So it's almost like, and I mean, I can put the Gorilla Grip on it. That's not a problem. It's just the sensation of the gun. And I'm amplifying it, of course, or making it worse, but, by describing it. But it has that weird buck. And I don't get that out of any other gun that I shoot, not any of them. But it's just the length of the barrel and, the way they've taken the weight off of it and stuff. And I've shot a Legion and it's still there, but it's not as bad. So I know if I put the tungsten plug and, the guide rod, it would weight it down, but it just
47-ounce polymer pistol.
Yeah. It doesn't do it for me personally.
It's a hammer.
Yeah.
So drive a nail with that thing.
Oh, I know. So obviously, if you guys haven't seen it, I guess SIG is going to be introducing that P320 steel frame. But again, I would question that. Why steel? Why not make it aluminum? You reduce the weight, you get a little more rigidity than polymer. Why not go with that aluminum frame?
Because the carry optic weight, the carry optic weight, they bumped it up to 59 ounces. So now they're wanting to make a heavier gun to compete in carry optics. So that's why they did it. And I think it's called the Alpha, and it looks cool and everything. I don't know what the price tag is going to be. That might be kind of crazy, but and it looks cool, and that might take that that rocking, bucking kind of thing out that I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, it's just a different lower. I mean, which on that 17, you've got that aluminum type lower, on your SIG. That's basically what they've done to it. So, who knows what the price point's going to be? Hell, it's probably going to be $1,800 or $1,900.
And they're competition guns. A lot of people forget the X5 Legion. And those are competition guns because I promise you try to hold that gun up out there while you're pulling security or something, you're going to find out real fast how heavy it is. Even though it's just a pistol, you're going to be like, you're going to be in here like this, in about 10 to 15 minutes.
And they put a safety on a striker fire gun, and I'm like, really? I do like a ledge, like on my Shadow 2. I like, I put the extended safety, so it's like a 1911 ledge, which I love. And maybe that's what they're trying to use it for. But I'm like, at the end of the day, it's still a striker fire. So, it takes
they kind of had that whole go bang issue with 320s. So
yeah.
Oh, just don't drop it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, just don't drop it. Accidentally shoot yourself like a couple people did.
Yeah, right in their thigh. Who needs a thigh? You got two.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing was their response to that was, "We don't admit anything, but we settled this." You know, it's like, dude, just come on. Everybody knew your gun was going bang when it was supposed to.
It's not a mandatory recall. It's a voluntary recall.
Yeah. And it happens. Nothing's perfect.
Then after you did it, the triggers weren't as good. My old 320 without the upgrade was way better. For the stock version.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the break between the 60 and the 70 series 1911s. You add more pieces, you add more weight.
Yeah. So Sam 2A is he's saying, obviously the safe and reliability issues with the SIGs on P365 with the primer drag, if that's real or not, I don't know. The 320 with the dropping of the guns. So, you wonder if there are safety issues. Are these guns we should consider as carryable? Interestingly enough, I haven't really heard much on anything with SIG having safety issues recently, especially with the new X series models. But, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So, and I don't want to slander anybody's good name or anything, but you're going to tell me no problem. And then the next week, oh, hey, by the way, we've completely tooled up a machine shop to fix this problem. Anybody who's ever done supply chain management or manufacturing knows it doesn't take a week. Mm-hmm. So that's just my experience. Cause I know if you go down to a local machinist and say, hey, can you make this part? Yeah, it'll take 5 months to design and make. Mm-hmm. But it's safe now. Yeah. I mean, from my understanding, I think we added them back to the roster, but we took them off for a long time just because of that issue. Because, there were, I think like a couple stories out there. One was threw his gear in the trunk and it went off and shot him in the thigh. And then another one was holstering, it went off, which, I mean, I don't know about that one, but if it's off your body and you throw it, that thing shouldn't go bang. I mean, I've seen and I've tested and I've seen Glocks and other pistols just go flying, and we're all like, oh God, who's catching them around? And they don't go off. Right. They're supposed to be drop safe for a reason because things happen.
And, part of manufacturing, and, that's what I do, but you can have rolling changes that you don't alert customers or anybody about. It's inside knowledge. And when all of this drop stuff was going on, I was actually going into gun stores where they had the old version and the newer version, and I was pulling them apart, looking at the slides, looking at the striker channel, and I was like, well, this one's different, this one's bigger, that one's smaller. I mean, I was seeing a bunch of this stuff, and I was actually reporting it on YouTube videos way back when. I was like, here's mine, here's the new one. But they weren't telling anybody. They were just doing it. And it's like when the 365, had the primer, the firing pins were breaking and, doing weird stuff.
Dragging,
you look at striker channels, the old striker channels were smaller, and then you send it in and you get your slide back and it would be like completely milled out with a whole new channel in it. And it's like, okay, you're not telling anybody, you're just doing it. So, and I mean, that's going to happen. I understand that, but I think they should have came out and said, look, here's what we're going to do to the guns. Here's what we found. Here's the upgrades. Little minimalistic changes, that's different. But when you're drilling out a whole firing pin channel and or putting a whole new slide on it, you kind of need
the whole relief cut for the disconnector because you didn't have one to begin with.
Right.
And they would and people would get their paperwork back and it would be like, new slide. Not, hey, here's what we did to it. And
we basically created you a new gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember I sent a Springfield in to get some work done because I did something to it and they were nice enough to fix it for me for free. But it specifically stated the tech actually signed, this is what we found, this is what we did, here's the shell casings, have a nice day, smiley face, please don't do that again.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So Pistol P is asking, in your hands, gentlemen, what is the most accurate pistol you have ever shot?
Wow.
I've got two that I can think of that are just balls on accurate.
Go ahead.
The M&P series, the 2.0s, just ridiculous accuracy. At least for me, I'm not going to say I'm an excellent marksman or anything like that, but Jesus, they're so fucking accurate. It's scary. And then the Steyr, the M9, probably the most accurate, lowest recoiling handgun I've ever owned.
Okay. What about you, TC?
The M&P is a tack driver, but it's for me, it's going to be metal guns. The 1911s and stuff like that, just because the way that the barrel sits in there and how the lockup is, the weight of it on recoil, and that trigger obviously so much less input in it that you're generally going to shoot a lot better. Even people, when I take them out and I'm teaching them something, they can't run a 1911, but just sitting there static shooting it, they're just driving it. And it depends on the brand. There are varying levels of quality when it comes to everything, but you get a good high quality, like a Wilson or one of those things, especially with a good set of sights, you can just drive holes all day long.
Yeah, I've got maybe 4. The Les Bear 45 was custom. Les Bear was super accurate. Now it took 1,000 rounds to break it in correctly, but that's to be expected. So that thing was super accurate for a 45. My Sphinx 9mm is stupid accurate. And then the TSO and probably the Shadow 2 with the AccuBushing on it is just a little bit tighter than a standard Shadow 2. But those are custom high-end type guns. For just a plain Jane gun, I'm trying to think. My PO7's my PO7's pretty damn accurate, but I think it's also how much time you spend behind a gun, because when you first get a gun, you might not be the most accurate with it, but you spend more time with it, put more range, you're going to know where it's going to hit and everything else. And, it's being comfortable with the firearm that you're shooting too.
Yep.
All right. So those are our takes on most accurate handguns, and again, it's going to be based upon your experience of what you've shot. I mean, I don't have really any experience with any high-end guns, to be honest with you. So all my stuff is, usually the average run-of-the-mill striker fired. Every once in a while I get a little sweetheart to shoot and send back, but and I'm okay with that. I'm not looking to empty my pockets on a handgun. I'm just not. I mean, I could see doing it on a rifle, but the handgun for me is more of like, I'm going to carry it. It's going to get filthy. It's going to get scarred. And I know, because I'm such a freak about this, that if I was to buy a super high-end handgun, I'd never carry it and I'd never use it, because I just would want to put it in a little crystal case with a light over it while it spins on a shelf somewhere. So, I'm okay with that. Like I'm completely comfortable with my cheapness. And everything I've ever owned has been pretty damn good, with the exception of a few. But again, it's always going to be based on what we have as individuals. Let's see what else we got here.
Look at this crazy thing. I got this in today for testing. This is the new Streamlight TLR 9. Look at the size of this sucker.
Oh, man. I haven't got one of those yet.
1,000 lumen pistol light. I mean, this thing is like the sun. But
that's huge.
It's friggin' long. I put pictures on Instagram, and this sucker is long.
Is that a flashlight in your pocket?
Yeah. No, just happy to see me.
So, I'm trying to think what to segue into, because we're running out of time here. But I mean, overall, I think we could agree that, the market right now has been a little slow. I think there's been a lot of uptick now that things are starting to, at least for us in the Northeast, things are starting to reopen a little bit. I'm not sure where it's going to leave the gun industry. I think, Tactical, you said it well, that, it's almost like the 2019 SHOT Show happened, but 2020 kind of just like vanished. There was nothing really, mind exploding. Obviously, people say the Alien handgun, but again, that's like a $3,000 handgun.
It's $5,000 handgun.
Oh shit!
A couple extra.
I mean, come on, a couple of grand. I'll just poop that out.
At some point, we're spoiled. Like, how much can we ask for?
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, right now, go on Gun Broker, and everything is sold out. I mean, go on Gun Genie or anything. Everything is sold out. But part of that has to do with importation and SIG. They're only sending one magazine. They give you a coupon for the other one. So it's the supply chain, and I'm sure Johnson can speak to this. Nobody understands the supply chain ramifications we're going to feel from this for the next year.
Right.
I mean, things are going to be ugly. And now that especially since you're going to have probably tariffs and all kinds of other crazy things going on after this, and people start bringing companies back here from China and stuff and all that, there's going to be some weird things going on, and it's going to affect the gear industry, the gun industry, and everybody else.
Right. It's a good point. I'll give you a great example of it. Our washing machine broke 4.5 weeks ago, and we bought one, we paid for it, and it's now 5 weeks on Saturday, and we still don't have the damn washing machine.
No.
Damn.
Yeah. So thank God my mother lives close because mommy's doing my laundry still.
You've never taken apart a washing machine before?
Dude, I did. I've actually fixed my dryer and my washing machine.
That's
And
cool.
you know what?
Rip them apart.
Whatever was wrong with this thing this time, I'm like, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. So, you know, everything breaks at some point, but it's been quite interesting to hear, you know, well, it's not in now. We don't have it here, but it'll be in next week. And then a week goes by. So you're right. I mean, the supply chains are all messed up. Inventories.
But you guys, you guys were like shut down. So out in Arizona, it was light. I mean, it's still just, I mean, I know, and it has to do with perspective. So New York was heavier hit. Arizona was different. Texas was different. Other states didn't even shut down. But at this point, I'm pretty sure most people can say that the cure is worse than what was going on.
And I think that's
most places.
I think we're definitely going to reanalyze that, whether or not it was worth it or not. You know, obviously, if somebody was, you know, sick and then died, and you know them, then you know you probably have a different perspective than if you really weren't directly affected by it. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there who are making these videos about this is all fake. You know what? Yeah, I'm glad you have an opinion. I don't think it was fake, and I'm just speaking from personal experience. But you know, at the same time, I don't know if that was the right choice. You know, because what are we going to do now? Now that it's reopening and people get sick again, what are we going to shut down again? You know, there's no answer.
It was real, but I think we overreacted.
Yeah, probably.
And I think a lot of things that don't fall in line with the Constitution happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think we can all agree on that.
Like I said, our judges have not been signing any permits for almost 2.5 months. So if let's say you bought something and you own it and it's your property, you can't get it. And let's say you're a female who needed a firearm for self-protection, you're putting their life in jeopardy because now you're not giving them that ability to actually get their own property. So you're absolutely right. But should we expect less? I mean, let's be reasonable and say, especially living in New York, you should never expect the government not to try to screw you here because that's all they do.
Well, I think
they're stepping.
Yeah, I think here's a perfect thing. You know, with the mask situation, everybody's saying you should wear a mask to protect yourself and others. Okay, but hang on. My answer to that is you should carry a gun to protect yourself and others. But you don't.
That's different. That's different.
Yeah, I'd even wear my gun on my face if that mattered.
Yeah,
okay,
but you don't. Yeah. But I tell you what, that deal that happened, where was it in New York or something, where a lady was not wearing a mask, and I mean the whole store started mob mentality on her, like telling her
screaming and telling her to get out and shit. Yeah. And I don't think that was up here though. I don't think
it's scary how fast people degrade into a mob over the stupidest things, man.
Because you don't believe in their beliefs or whatever. Yeah. I mean, you could do that with your religion. You could do it with anything, but to belittle a human being for not wearing a mask, and I mean, and they were like rushing up on her. You're supposed to keep your 6 feet distance. Well, if I'm 6 feet away from you, you don't need to worry about it. Just let me do me and you do you.
Yeah.
But to totally belittle somebody for that, man, that's
it's the three rules of the thing that I keep telling people. It's do what your grandmother told you. Don't open mouth kiss strangers.
Yeah.
Don't pick your nose, and don't lick flat surfaces. You'll probably be okay.
You're not supposed to open mouth kiss strangers? When did that rule come into play?
Not unless you're drunk in college at a bar.
Yeah. Or I guess you're paying somebody for it, but
well, then she's not necessarily a stranger. You kind of already know her. You have at least a business relationship.
That's right. That's right. We're connected. We're connected by $20. So
yeah. Well,
Drucifer is asking you this question. I don't know if you did your own install. I did my own install, but how hard do you think it is to do the Apex trigger on a 509?
Okay, well here's the deal. I was tempted in my FN 509 and my FNS 9, and I broke 2 snap-on punches. Okay, so after that, I was like, I'm done. Now I will say this. Mine were the extended punches, and they should have been the stubbies, where you can grind them down. That would have been a lot better because you're providing less force on a longer object. However, that's why I went with the really good punches, and I bent the shit out of them. So now they're short punches. But after that, I was just like, I took it to a gunsmith buddy of mine, and he had all the tools, and that's what he specialized in, and he hammered them out quick. So that's my opinion.
Now, TC, I think you had Apex install yours, correct?
Yeah, my install was rough. I drove on down to Apex for an open house, and they put it in for me.
Wow.
But since I did the video on that, I've had like several people message me and say I broke my frame.
Yeah. See, I listen. I've installed it, and it is the worst installation ever. I've actually installed that one and the one on my PPQ, and the PPQ I thought was hard because of the way the slide locks are basically welded together. But you get it. You're able to get it off there at some point when you beat the shit out of it for about a half an hour. But the apex on that FNN, I mean, I swear to God, I was going to throw the goddamn thing in the woods because it was so hard to get that pin out. But I got it out, and I mushroomed it just a little bit, but it went back in, no problems since then. So knock on wood, I was able to do it. But I would absolutely recommend sending it somewhere. Send it to Apex. Maybe get that little jig they have for it. Yeah. But it's a bitch. It's a bitch, big time.
Yeah, if you can afford an FN, you can afford to have someone install it, and I would suggest that. Otherwise, it's going to cost you $500 for a frame.
I know that's going to suck. So
yeah, because I'm very mechanical, and I was just like, screw this.
Yeah, I try to do all.
I didn't even attempt. I didn't even attempt that one because I had heard horror stories. I'm like, you know what? I've installed everything else. I've built cars. I've built motors. I've fabricated chassis. I am not ruining this gun because it's gray. And they're unicorns.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know what else is a unicorn is with the green lowers with the FD slides. You don't see those often, but they're out there.
Oh, I know where there's one right now.
Yeah, it's probably the tactical version, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course.
Of course. Yeah. So I can't get that because that's a threaded barrel because that's evil too. Come on.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Listen, anything that you can put potentially a suppressor on or a muzzle brake or something else, it's dangerous. It's more dangerous. Come on.
I think it was the Davidson Special Edition, I think is what it was. The green with the FD, and it does look pretty badass.
All right. So we are now over. So why don't we finish off with what is coming in the future for all of us? So why don't we start with TC tonight, and then we'll go with Big Johnson, and then we'll finish off with myself. So what do you got coming down the pipeline there, sir?
Oh, man, I got some more magnified optics stuff. I got some more stuff coming from the Swamp Fox guys, some of their newer stuff. The Bren 2, some Scorpion stuff. Man, I got a lot of pistol stuff, not all Glock stuff. You seem to think I'm still there's so much other stuff on my channel besides Glock stuff, man. Yeah. Lots of AR stuff coming, lots of builds coming for those. That's all just most of the videos for that stuff's already made. It's just waiting. So
very good.
Yeah, I'll be shooting the POF tomorrow with the suppressor on it. I want to try that, see how it's going to do. I've got some light stuff. Uncle Dan hooked me up with a trigger. He was so gracious to send me a brand new trigger, so I'm going to be trying that. I know you've tried them before, the Rise. So I'll be trying that, and that's about it. I want to thank everyone. Of course, thank TC for being on. It's a good deal, and just everybody be safe out there.
And hopefully now that we're entering phase 2 in the opening of New York State in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll get some ranges open. I actually have guns in my safe I haven't even shot yet. So I've not ever shot the P365. It's been sitting in there. I probably am going to be completely honest by telling you I'm going to shoot it and then sell it to a friend of mine. Overall, I'm not. I mean, I understand why people like it so much, but I personally not a fan. I just think it's too small, and I can see myself just not doing what I would want to do with it on a normal sized handgun. But that may change when I shoot it. Obviously, the Icarus Precision. They sent me the aluminum lower for the 320X carry. Love that friggin' thing. I have to send it back to them, but they've been very gracious enough to let me keep it until the ranges open up so I can actually do a video on how that thing actually mitigates recoil. Because from what I've been seeing, it works like a charm. And then obviously the 320 RXP, got to shoot that. I haven't even touched that thing. Just dry firing the crap out of it. So there are some things I'm working on. I almost got an Archon the other day. It was on Gun Broker. The person was asking $600 used, and wow. I put a bid in, and somebody outbidded me and won. So I'm like, damn it, but it is what it is. And once I get that Shadow Systems, man, I'm going to run that sucker and probably do a comparison with that with the Glock 19. Cool. And then we'll see. Oh, and I got a couple of rifles I got to shoot too. So other than that, nothing else going on.
Yeah, Bald is wanting tactical considerations link, but if you could type something in there, TC, I don't know if you can go in there anymore. But yeah, Bald, it's under tactical considerations. I don't know if.
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything in there. But.
Yeah, I mean you can say hello in there, and they might at least have the name in there.
I don't know if they can do that on this shit. All right.
I don't know, just put
click
something
on
there.
it.
We'll see if it goes through.
Yeah. But maybe they can,
All right.
at least have the name. But
Yeah.
So that's a wrap, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys being on tonight. Thank you, TC, on short notice for joining us tonight. You're always welcome anytime. So feel free to reach out and let us know if you ever want to do this again, man. It's always a good time.
Absolutely, man. All the time.
All right, boys.
thanks,
See you
everyone.
next week. Adios, gentlemen.
Carry on.
I got to end this, don't I?